Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is officially January 2026, and we are kicking off the new year by tackling, well, what is probably the most critical topic on everyone's mind, the new global cybersecurity imperative.
It really is. A very happy new year, and thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thank you for continuing to be with us as we head into what looks to be a pivotal year.
It's definitely pivotal. We're not talking about small adjustments anymore. We're looking at fundamental changes in architecture and regulation. We've pulled our data from the big 2026 global budget guides, the latest Gartner trends, and some really deep legal analysis on these new compliance mandates.
Yeah, from Beijing to Brussels to D.C. So our mission today is to cut through all that noise and give you the strategic view, a roadmap, really. Where's the money going? What are the threats that matter? And what are these regulatory cliffs we all need to be ready for in 2026?
And I think the big hook, the one thing to keep in mind, is the shift in thinking. If last year was about being efficient, 2026 is about a complete change in strategy. You have to move from that reactive defense posture to a preemptive architecture.
Because of the speed.
Exactly. The sheer velocity that AI has brought to the game changes everything.
And before we get into all that, a quick thank you to our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com. If you're looking for solutions that align with the strategies we're about to unpack, that is absolutely the place to start. Okay, let's start where every strategic conversation has to, the budget. After a few years of, let's say, cautious spending, the numbers are really jumping up, aren't they?
A substantial rebound is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It seems the market is finally treating security spend as a critical infrastructure investment, not just a line item.
So what's the top line number we're looking at?
We're projected to hit approximately $240 billion globally this year. But the key figure really is the acceleration. That's a robust 12.5% increase in spending.
Wow, 12.5%. That is a huge jump from the conservative 4% we saw the year before.
A massive jump. And that growth, it isn't driven by optimism. It's driven by cold, hard financial pain. Boards are finally opening up the wallets because the cost of doing nothing is it's become undeniable.
Right, because the breach numbers are still climbing.
Precisely. The average cost of a single data breach hit $4.45 million globally back in 2024. And that number, that's not just a statistic anymore. That's the slide in the CISO's Act that's unlocking all this board-level funding.
And what's the primary catalyst for that? If you had to point to one thing fueling this terror, really.
It's the AI-powered threat evolution. It's exponential. We're no longer talking about simple scripts. Attackers are using generative AI tools that can create, the number is staggering. 10,000 personalized phishing emails a minute.
That's just, it's a scale that completely overwhelms any human-based filter.
It makes traditional detection obsolete. And it's not just email. We saw that terrifying 3,000% jump in deepfake fraud incidents in 2024. That changes the game for authentication.
So how does that translate to budget allocation? Where's the money actually going?
Well, it's shifting decisively to software and security tools. That's now about 40% of the enterprise security budget. And you see a corresponding decline in hardware. That's dropping to around 15%.
Yeah.
It's all about agile cloud-native defense now.
But in the middle of all this tech spend, we still have this persistent paradox, the people problem.
We do. Personnel, so both internal staff and external services, still accounts for roughly 51% of total security spending. It's huge, and yet the talent gap is a chasm. We hit 4.8 million unfilled positions globally in 2025.
And that shortage has a direct financial impact. I think I saw that organizations with staffing shortages face breach costs that are, almost $1.8 million higher.
That's the figure, $1.76 million higher on average. And that gap is exactly what's driving the urgency behind automation. CISOs aren't buying tools to replace people. They're buying them to act as force multipliers for the people they do have.
That's a great point. It's an augmentation strategy, which that perfectly sets up our next segment. The new battlefield, AI, identity, and the looming threat of quantum.
This is where we start talking about 2026 as an AI versus AI battlefield. And the key takeaway for you here is that traditional detection models, they're just obsolete now.
Explain that. Why are my EDR and XDR tools suddenly not good enough?
Because the attacks now execute in milliseconds. By the time your EDR tool detects that an autonomous AI-driven threat has executed, it's already too late.
The damage is done.
Damage is done. So CISOs have to shift their focus to preemptive, pre-execution prevention. You have to stop these things before they can even initialize.
And the scariest version of this seems to be what's called agentic AI, autonomous agents becoming sort of the ultimate insider threat.
Absolutely. Think about it. If an attacker compromises one of these AI agents, They've basically got a pre-authorized, powerful, and independent actor inside your network. Securing that requires totally new governance, new policies, and things like AI firewalls to keep them in their lane.
And at the same time, the target has shifted. The old castle and moat metaphor is dead. It's all about identity now.
Identity is the new perimeter, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Attackers aren't breaking down the walls, they're stealing the keys, cloud tokens, authentication cookies. They're just becoming someone with legitimate access.
But the visibility just isn't there. I saw a stat that 75% of security leaders admit they don't have full identity visibility.
It's a crisis of visibility. They know the keys are out there, but they don't know who's holding them. And that's driving huge budget increases for things like unified identity graphs and machine identity management.
So that's the immediate fire. But then there's this long-term, almost existential threat, the quantum imperative. We keep hearing this phrase, harvest now, decrypt later. What does that actually mean?
It means state-sponsored adversaries are stealing and stockpiling huge volumes of our encrypted data today. They're making a bet that in a few years, a quantum computer will be able to break today's encryption, and they'll be able to unlock all of it.
And that bet is looking safer all the time. The quantum computing market is set to pass $5 billion in 2026. This isn't science fiction anymore.
Not at all. But the preparedness level is, frankly, alarming. Only about 3% of organizations have fully implemented quantum-resistant measures.
Wow.
Nearly half, 49%, haven't even started planning.
So what's the call to action?
You need a post-quantum cryptography, a PQC roadmap now. You have to start inventorying your cryptographic assets and deploying crypto-agile solutions so you can swap out algorithms as soon as new standards are ready.
All of this complexity, the AI, the identity sprawl, the quantum threat, it leads right to the biggest operational problem most enterprises have. Just pure tool chaos.
Right. The average enterprise is juggling, what, 43-plus security tools from 20 different vendors?
It's madness. That complexity is the real enemy. It just leads to alert fatigue and missed threats.
It's the enemy of security, exactly. Which is why Gartner's big push is for a cybersecurity mesh architecture, or CSMA.
So what is that? In simple terms, it's not another tool to buy, is it?
No, and that's the genius of it. It's not a product as an architectural approach. It's a fabric that's designed to integrate the disparate tools you already own. So no rip and replace. It basically weaves everything together.
And the strategic goal of that fabric is to make zero trust actually work at scale.
Exactly. CSMA creates this unified identity fabric that lets context, who you are, what device you're on, flow seamlessly between all your different systems. That's how you get consistent policy enforcement everywhere.
This need for integration then feeds right into the SOC, the Security Operations Center. They're under immense pressure to modernize.
The benchmarks for 2026 are aggressive. Mean time to detect your MTTD needs to be under 10 minutes. And mean time to respond, MTTR, has to be under an hour. If you're not hitting those, you're losing the race against AI.
And for a lot of companies, hitting those numbers on their own is just not feasible, which is why we're seeing the rise of SOC as a service.
We are. The data shows that organizations adopting SOCAS are achieving 20 to 40% faster detection cycles. It's just a really effective way to offset that huge talent shortage we talked about.
One last architectural piece, microsegmentation. It's getting a lot of budget allocation, maybe 15 to 20% in some cases. Why is that so critical right now?
It's simple, really. Over 70% of attacks involve lateral movement. An attacker gets in one place and then moves sideways across the network. Microsegmentation is what stops that. It contains the breach. It turns a potential catastrophe into a manageable incident.
Okay, let's pivot to the other huge challenge for 2026. What you call the global compliance cliff. It feels like regulations are all converging at once.
They are, and the enforcement is getting much, much stricter. Let's start with China. Their new CSL amendments went into effect on January 1st.
And the big headline there is the fines.
It's a tenfold increase. Maximum fines for what they call critical information infrastructure operators jump from 1 million RMB to 10 million RMB. That's about $1.4 million. Gets legal's attention very quickly.
But it's not just the money, it's the scope of the law that's expanded, right?
Dramatically. It now covers any activity by an overseas company that harms China's cybersecurity. That wording is incredibly broad and has a chilling effect. It forces global companies to scrutinize their entire digital footprint.
Okay, now over to Europe and the EU AI Act. We're hearing about some proposed delays there.
That's right. For the high-risk systems like AI and recruiting or credit scoring, the deadlines might push out to late 2027 or even 2028.
So should companies relax a bit on that?
I wouldn't. The delay isn't because they're backing down. is to give them time to create harmonized technical standards. The core of the act, especially prohibiting harmful AI manipulation, that remains. The delay is just time you should be using to prepare.
Got it. And down in Australia, a big new mandate around ransomware.
A very significant one. A mandatory ransomware payment reporting regime. If your business is over a certain size, probably around $3 million in turnover, you now have to report any ransom payment within 72 hours.
That's a tight turnaround in the middle of a crisis. But they're also offering a kind of a safe harbor to encourage reporting.
They are. They created a cyber incident review board and this limited use obligation. Basically, if you voluntarily share incident details, they're restricting how that information can be used against you in other civil or regulatory actions. They're trying to remove the fear of self-incrimination.
And finally, in the U.S., the SEC is turning up the heat on financial services.
Yep. A big deadline on June 3rd, 2026 for smaller investment advisors and broker-dealers. They have to have enhanced, written incident response plans in place for protecting customer information. It's about formalizing the response.
And their examination priorities are getting more specific, too. They're not just asking about firewalls anymore.
Not at all.
Yeah.
They're specifically calling out risks from AI and polymorphic malware. They are scrutinizing how firms are actually using threat intelligence and monitoring their own AI systems for misuse.
So as we wrap this up, let's try to synthesize this. It feels like there are three huge themes for 2026. First, everything is defined by a speed challenge. The AI threat now and the quantum threat coming.
Exactly. Second, you can't survive with a fragmented toolkit. You have to move towards architectural resilience, something like CSMA, to beat that tool chaos and actually make zero trust work.
And third, global regulation is no longer a paper tiger. The fines are real, the enforcement is tightening, and compliance failure has a massive measurable cost.
But if I can add one final thought, we can connect all of these threads back to that human paradox we started with. Even with all this new tech, personnel is still over half the budget. This changing the CISO role. It's less of a tech manager and more of a risk orchestrator.
So the real strategic imperative is investing smartly in people. Using AI and managed services as augmentation, as those force multipliers, to upskill your team and fight that skills gap.
My final thought for you is this. We're now in an era where AI gives attackers the scale to conduct personalized instant fraud. Real resilience in 2026 won't come from another point solution. It's going to come from achieving operational consistency and speed, an integrated defense that is just systematically faster and smarter than the attack. And that requires a complete overhaul of how we think about security.
A powerful way to frame the challenge for the new year. Thank you for joining us for this crucial deep dive. To review the sources and the strategic guidance we covered, and to find solutions that match these priorities, please visit our sponsor, www.cisomarketplace.com. We will catch you next time.